Well then, welcome to today's episode of Flow Meter Guide, where the currents of wit and wisdom flow as we explore the journeys of people building successful and unique businesses. Today, we're honored to welcome our guest who runs a very successful company that specializes in corrosion-free instrumentation equipment. And despite his busy schedule, he's traveled all the way from their corporate offices in Ontario, Canada, and he's graciously taken the time to say hello to us today. Well then, young man, what's your name?
My name is Greg Reid.
And what do you do for business?
CEO of a company called Icon Process Controls.
Icon Process Controls. That's an instrumentation company which headquarters out of Canada.
Yes, sir.
And you have some U.S. offices there, and you're a really busy guy. What do you do when you're not working? What kind of hobbies? What do you do in your personal life to have that fun?
Well, after the hours that I put in for work, I like to deep sea fish.
Deep sea fish.
Yeah, I try to get away and deep sea fish and capture as big a fish as I can when I'm away. Sometimes you get skunked, and I don't always get it. I also like fast cars.
You do?
Yes, sir. And I'm a bit of a car hobbyist.
Oh, what kind of cars you got?
Porsches.
Of course.
Yes, 911 Turbo S's. So
Is that all?
Monsters.
Okay.
And a lot of fun. I am a big wine enthusiast, so I spend a lot of time at wine vineyards.
Do you?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's some nice hobbies there. That's some high-end hobbies. You must sell a lot of process control instrumentation to have hobbies like that.
I do my best.
Where do you go fishing, the deep sea fishing?
Cancun. I'd like to go to Bermuda this year.
Oh, there are nice places
Yeah, I
there.
go to nice places. I kind of try and, it's not all about the fishing.
Yeah?
Okay? Depends on what you're catching. Okay? I spend a little time at the beach, too.
Yeah?
Yes.
Wow, that's fantastic. Well, I detect a little bit of that Canadian accent there. So did you grow up in Canada?
I grew up, yes, place called Cambridge, alias Lanebridge.
Lanebridge, huh?
Okay? You go back, and it's like driving back into the 70s. Okay?
Oh, really?
So I live in Oakville now, so that's where my company's based.
Yeah.
Right on the base of Lake Ontario.
Yeah.
Fantastic spot. We're looking at moving into the U.S. A place called Charlotte, North Carolina.
Charlotte, North Carolina. Yeah. Not too far. We're based out of Atlanta here.
Yes.
So not too far away itself. Yeah, I grew up, I went to high school in Port Huron, Michigan. And as we mentioned earlier, I used to go back and forth across the Blue Water Bridge back before you needed a passport.
I remember those days.
And I would go and we'd play basketball. We'd go to Harvey's hamburger restaurant and have vinegar French fries. And it was not
fries.
Not another country. It's just across the water. And hi guys, how you doing?
Yeah.
And so the world has changed dynamically, hasn't it, over the years?
Yeah, it sure has.
Yeah. Well, the industry, we're not a whole lot different. The technologies are shared back and forth there. I do find that a lot of the facilities that I went to when I went to Canada to call on were a little cleaner, a little better, a little sharper. I don't know if they were just newer. There's just a higher level of technology, it appears, in a lot of the manufacturing facilities and the refiners that I went to over the years. So it's a little bit different than some of the other places that I've seen. So where'd you go to school?
Well, I went to school to a community college, just a place called Kitchener. Did mechanical engineering technology.
Kitchener, sure.
Yeah. And then when I turned 40, I went back to school and did an MBA. And then after that, while I was doing my MBA, I actually decided to take time off, and I did a law degree.
In your spare time?
In my spare time.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You're busy.
Never to hang a shingle, okay? But it was my Everest. It was my midlife crisis.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, I guess that information would be very helpful in running a business and, and keeping it.
And when I'm signing boilerplate agreements, it comes in handy, okay? Yeah, it really has.
Yeah. No, that's the game now. So when you got it, everybody wants it.
Yeah, it's, it's once again, when I was doing it, was it pleasant? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Could I have been doing other things? You're damn right.
Yeah.
It was a challenge. The gray matter was tired. Okay? I had to wake it back up again.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
So you did that. So how did you stumble into the process control world?
Well, I had finished school and I had worked at a company where I was the assistant plant engineer that made micro machine products for items like the cruise missile. Okay? And I was inside an office and I kept looking out the little window. You couldn't really see out. And I kept thinking to myself, damn, there's a world going on out there. And I said, I like the engineering side of things. But when it comes to, I need to be part of the excitement. So I knew I wanted to get into sales. So I started looking for a sales job. And it just so happened that there was a sales job offered. And back when you were looking, there was no internet. It was in the paper. And I saw the paper, and you had to write and mail your resume.
Mail a resume.
Yeah.
Those were the days, huh?
Those were the days. And then you got a phone call.
Yeah.
And then you had to drive, of course, do the interview.
Right.
It was a lot different than what it is today.
For sure.
And started in the thermoplastic business. So I've been in the corrosion field for many years. And I love it. I just love the fact that, just about every industry out there uses chemicals.
Sure.
Now, some of them are carbon-based, which we don't get involved with. We get involved in the inorganic chemicals, okay? So we get into your sulfuric acid, your nitric acid, your caustic sodas, sodium hypochlorites, anything that really doesn't like metal,
Gotcha.
okay? I cut my teeth in plastics. I worked for a company that was the master distributor for Asahi Valve.
Okay.
And back when I started, really it was pioneering. You have to remember, plastic, you went in to show somebody a solid plastic valve, they would look like, are you actually for real?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, because they were used to metal.
Yeah, big hunks of stuff.
And if it was chemical, it was lined.
Yeah.
And I remember going to plants, and you'd walk in and you look over, and there was a huge pile of valves. It was like a junkyard of valves that failed.
A dead pile, huh?
Dead pile. And I remember guys looking at stuff and they would just be, are you effing kidding me? There's no way I would use something like that.
Yeah.
So it was an uphill battle.
Sure.
Okay. But what I used to do and what I found that which is very important is I didn't want the weak applications. Anybody can do weak.
Gotcha.
I learned that, hey, if you're going to cut your teeth and you're going to make it in this industry, you go after the heavy lifting applications. I would go in and say, give me the toughest application you've got. I don't want the weak stuff. You tell me the ones that are giving you problems that are keeping you up at night or having you address them on weekends. And providing they were within the temperature and the pressure limits of thermoplastics, I would provide a solution to you. And sure enough, it started slowly, but eventually these people started to look at plastics in a whole different
So you got some
light.
traction then.
You better believe it. And then they recognize this isn't the stuff that's on your dashboard.
Right.
This is stuff that's designed for pressurized systems and for handling very, very aggressive chemicals.
Got it.
Yeah.
So you're in click with something like that.
Got into something like that, and I cut my teeth. I was, by within 5 years, I was the VP of sales. Okay, so I really
You made quota.
I made quota. I made some people rich.
Yeah.
And what I really like doing, Brent, is I like the fact, okay, when it comes to sales, it's one thing to meet somebody in their office, but I think where the rubber really hits the road is by getting into the field and seeing the applications, getting to learn what it is that they deal with. These guys are the ones that are doing the installs, and understanding that, hey, you know, you want to be able to provide something that brings a smile to their face. The minute you bring a frown, forget it. They're looking elsewhere.
Yeah.
So I made sure that when it was joint calls, and one of the things that I was also schooled in it from a very early point in my career was the importance of samples, especially in thermoplastics. So when you're handling something and you've got something, let's say it's a plastic pen, okay, that's pretty weak. I'm not putting that in a process chemical application. But if you hand something to somebody and they feel that, wow, this has got some weight to it, it's got, you know, this has been well designed, you explain. I travel with samples because you have to be able to explain to somebody so that if they ask, well, what's that made out of? Well, let me check it out. Well, I don't have a
Let me
clue.
know, huh?
Yeah. I need to know what it is because I was not only talking to the people that were doing the work or doing the install, but also the people that were doing the engineering.
Yeah.
And the engineers also most certainly wanted to know about the product. And, you know, it got to a point where I could take the stuff apart with my eyes closed.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you're leaving most certainly a strong impression when you are talking to somebody and you're very, you can talk about it with truth, and you're doing something that says, guess what? I'm not here to flim-flam you. I stand behind what I sell. And if it didn't work, if it wasn't suitable, I wouldn't recommend it. And still today, so I've got certain materials of construction. So if it's, let's say it's a 32% ACL application at this ambient temperature, I'd say that I wouldn't sell the most expensive thermoplastic if the least expensive would work.
Sure.
And still be excellent results. I wouldn't upsell unless there was something outside that would affect it and they would need that. Because I think it comes back and haunts you. Always be honest and forthcoming with what you sell. And then they know that you're not trying to upsell them just to make an extra buck, because it'll always come back and kick you in the ass.
There you go.
Yeah.
So you learned the technology, to develop the marketplace.
Yep.
How did you get to where you're at now?
Excellent question. Well, I got, once again, I hit midlife crisis, okay? And
I thought you were 39.
I actually had a birthday last month. I'm now 40.
Okay.
Okay.
That's good.
Thank you. It was one of these things where I saw the ceiling, okay? I saw the fact that when I started in the industry, there were very few companies doing what I was doing. And I would spend a lot of time taking product apart, showing the features and discussing the benefits. What we were seeing then was an influx of product coming into the market, flooding the market, where it got to the point where, guess what? The customer had seen numerous ball valves or butterfly valves or a valve type in a thermoplastic. So it was, the wow factor was gone.
Okay.
So I finished my MBA, my law degree, and then I came out and I thought, damn it, I have to get back to work. Okay? I had kids to support. And so I started looking. And the type of jobs that I was being offered, the type of jobs that were offered, were corporate downtown skyscrapers, pain in the ass getting to, pain in the ass parking, dealing with a whole corporate structure, and then looking at the products that I would have to sell, garbage bags, cable. I thought, wow, how long is that going to take before I'm bored to death? So what I did is I became an agent. So I became an agent of a thermoplastic valve company. I became an agent of a company that specialized in level. I became an agent of a company that specialized in pulsation dampeners. I became an agent of a company that specialized in analytical equipment. So I became an agent in numerous companies that were part of this industry that I cut my teeth on and started with. And started to learn different aspects. Level, I'd never done level before. I was a flow guy and a valve guy.
Sure.
But now I was doing level. So I was climbing tanks. I was learning all about level. And I found that as being an agent, one of the things, as being a distributor, what I found was a lot of times you're dealing with the nuances of a sales manager or upper management, and they may decide that, guess what, we don't want agents anymore.
Okay.
Okay. And you get 1 month's notice.
Sure. Drop
So
the
you
line.
might, yeah. So you might develop and spend all that time to develop a line, and then all of a sudden, guess what? I don't like his shoes. Okay. You got 1 month.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're out hunting again.
Yeah. Look for another line.
Right. So I started to look at it and said, hey, this, and at that time, I was initially started on my own, and then I got my son involved. And my son, my oldest son, had graduated, and he was staying at my house, and he was interviewing. He was sending out interviews. He was looking for a job. And I remember one of the jobs he was looking for and applying to was selling plots at a cemetery. Okay? Here's a 22-year-old kid. And I'm thinking, really?
Yeah.
How many clicks do you think you're going to get when you call somebody?
Yeah.
Okay. And I said, listen, Jared, okay, I'm looking for somebody to join me. Why don't you come work for me while you're looking for another job? Well, that'd be good. Yeah, I could do that. So I started to train him. And once again, I would get him with samples, and we sit down and discuss it. And I'd go through the same type of process that I went through. And he would work, and he was getting out and making sales calls. And, hey, our business is doing really well. And then I had my son Alex start with me when he graduated. Same thing. And at that point, Brent, you have to remember, I wasn't that busy. I sometimes had to say to Alex, my son, when it wasn't busy, listen, I need some painting done. Okay. I was working out of my house.
Yeah.
I could get only one car in the garage because the other car had racks.
Sure.
Okay, of inventory.
Sure.
Okay. So sometimes, and he did, trust me, I'm lucky he's not painting for a living, okay? Okay. I'm still living with some of those projects. Okay. So we did that, and finally, I started to look at products that, really I saw that there was a niche for, and there was places where what was being offered currently, there were areas of improvement. So I looked at these, and I started looking at, well, what can I do differently? How can I bring something to market that would be easier for a customer, provide them with better accuracy, repeatability, lifespan? And I started to look at it and say, okay, am I employ some of the stuff I've learned from the past and look at products that, that were you still able to make some money at?
Sure.
So I started in paddle wheel flow meters.
Okay.
And with paddle wheel flow meters, I looked at it and said, being a guy that sold thermoplastic valves, ball valves and thermoplastic have unions, and they call them true union. So I decided that, guess what? I'm going to introduce a paddle wheel flow meter that has a true union body. If they know how to install a ball valve, which they all do, that had become a commodity.
Sure.
They can install one of my flow meters. And not only that, one of the biggest problems with insertion style flow meters. It's the fact that depending on the size, depending on the piping, you got to figure out or program in a key factor.
Sure.
I'm going to provide you with a product that has the key factor
It's all
already
done. Plug and play.
done. Why not make it simple for somebody?
Sure.
Okay. And then I looked at it, and what we have now is many iterations. What we have now is much different than what we started with. But I listened to what the customers had to say. I looked at it and said, well, okay, yeah, no, that's no program. That's good. True union, that's awesome. Now, materials of construction, yeah, I can cover that well. I can do PVC, polypro, PVDF, stainless steel. But what about accuracy? And what about longevity? So I looked at it and I said, I need to come up with something, because paddle wheels, quite frankly, had a horrible reputation, okay? People would actually curse when you offered a paddle wheel, because it just didn't last.
No, it didn't last, and notoriously not very accurate. So it was a budget buy. How's that?
It was a budget buy, Brent, okay? People would use this as a final, option. Well, I want flow, but I can't afford it. Well, guess what? We've got something for you here.
Yep.
Okay, I wanted to take it to the next level. So I looked at the paddle assembly and I said, guess what? How can we make that better? This is the part that's rotating.
Sure.
This is the part that when you got something rotating, you create friction, and friction creates heat, and heat creates wear,
Sure.
and wear breakage. So I looked at different materials construction, and I needed something also that was chemically inert, okay? Teflon is the king of thermoplastics when it comes to chemical resistance. But it absolutely sucks when it comes to mechanical properties,
Sure.
okay? The next on the hierarchy is a material called Tefzel, okay? Phenomenal chemical resistance and phenomenal wear resistance. So I made the paddle out of that. Then I looked at it and said, well, okay, everybody has a flat paddle. That's like something at a very, very microscopic level, at a certain speed, you're hitting a wall. Okay, that's turbulence. So I looked to NASA, and it was just so I didn't look to them, but I was able to find, through the advent of the internet, that we didn't have one time. You had to go to the library to find stuff out. That there was tests actually done on profiles of materials.
Really?
Yeah, and I actually referenced that in our data sheet, what report we referred to. But there's a profile called the airfoil design, and it creates less turbulence than any other. So I incorporated that into our paddle. Then I had to look at the shaft, the rotor pin.
Sure.
So it had to be chemically inert,
Sure.
extremely long wear life, and be able to handle thermal shock that was happening, for example,
Sure.
or shock through the water. So I looked at it, started with ceramic, but ceramic is too brittle. It's like dropping a glass,
Sure.
okay, or a cup. Plus, you couldn't get a smooth finish on it. So I looked at another material. It's called zirconium ceramic. Now, a lot of people might not hear of it. Zirconium ceramic, never heard of it. But if you've got a crown or you've got an implant,
Sure.
that is zirconium ceramic. Okay? So if it's working here, okay, with what's going up here with these choppers, okay, it's a strong material. So I did that, put a polished surface on it, and then I actually put bushings inside the paddle. We're so confident now with the life and the wear of this paddle assembly. It's guaranteed for the life of the flow meter.
Really?
If it
So
ever
that's
fails.
completely not comparable to the traditional
Right
paddle
on,
flow
right
meter.
on, right on.
So you developed a product that enhanced the performance of a theoretical design device.
Yep.
And a paddle wheel, for those who don't know, is just a paddle that goes around just like the back of a paddle wheel boat, and it has a pickup on it, and we get a pulse and we measure flow.
Right.
And then you have redesigned it for your corrosion applications,
Exactly.
and everything else that people are throwing at it.
Yep.
You've basically made it almost turbine meter-like,
Yep.
basically, from
Yep.
a performance standpoint. But it's made out of the materials of construction that aren't the Hastelloid C turbine flow meters or something like that. So I assume it's economical as well.
Price point, it's extremely competitive. And
go.
yeah. And also, Brent, what we were also able to do, we were able to drill down the fact that we were able to reduce the friction, okay, or the hysteresis on a paddle that may be caused, and the turbulence. From 1%, our flow meters are now 0.5% accurate.
Really, from
Yes.
a paddle wheel flow meter.
Yes, sir.
So the technology's there. So of the products that is this the time you formed Icon then?
I had two industries. I had Icon Process Technologies, which was my agency side.
Yeah.
I then went Icon Process Controls for the products that I was now making and selling.
Okay.
So I eventually morphed out of the agency side and moved into selling my own products.
So the product menu that you have is not limited to paddle wheel flow meters. Give us a quick rundown of the technologies that you offer today.
Well, we offer paddle wheel flow meters, clamp-on ultrasonic flow meters, mag meters, submersible level sensors, radar level sensors, ultrasonic level sensors. We also do gauges, pressure gauges, temperature, analytical equipment, telemetry equipment, wireless equipment.
So you have, we'll say, you have everything under the sun as far as process control instrumentation. Kind of wraps it up there. If you've got something that's going through a pipe,
Yep.
you got it.
Yeah, we try, one of the things we do, okay, because once again, you have to remember, I'm not the type of guy to sit behind the desk. I'm the type of guy that climbs the tank, okay? I don't have a problem doing that. I'm that type of guy that can install a valve.
I can tell you're very calm and sedate, and you don't want to do anything like that.
Yeah, you see, I love it, okay?
You're the opposite of that.
Yeah. I really enjoy hands-on because I believe that's where you learn. And the things that you sometimes, it doesn't even cross your mind unless you're actually doing something.
Yeah, I think most people are tactile. They
Yeah.
kind of touch it, they understand it, they get it.
Right
You can
on.
visual so far, but this feels like something. I think it can do it. So
Right on.
you went and built this business,
Yep.
and so now you've got this up and running business that's doing quite well, and you've got a staff of a whole host of products. So that comes in line. So your leadership style. Now you have a group of people that you're managing, and
Yep.
and what is, if you were to coin your leadership style that you command your team, what would you wrap that up as?
Well, to me, okay, it's very important that I leave some type of legacy.
Yeah.
It's in my life, okay, you get to a point where it's not about money anymore, okay?
Yeah.
You can only spend so much of it. And guess what? I think it's very important that my goal now is to train the next generation coming up, and I set a high bar. I really do.
Yeah.
I think it's very important to really. There's a reason. It's like what Ford said. Okay, opportunity is missed so many times because it comes knocking at the door and it's dressed in overalls. Okay, and it's so true. It
Yeah.
comes down to work.
Yeah, it does.
And I'm a true believer, what you put in, you get out. If you put in 25%, don't expect 75 back. So I believe, do your due diligence, work at it, and you're going to be successful. And I believe that my guys, it's important that they understand, and our goal and their goal has to be the tip of the spear, not the ass. Okay, so hone your skill set, learn, ever be looking at it. Like I say, I'm a work in progress, but so is my company.
Mm-hmm.
And I want the people that are working for me, no weaklings, no slack asses.
Yeah.
They have to be people that really want to be engaged and do something with their lives. Because I find, hey, guess what? 30 years ago, if you looked at me, you'd take a double take,
Yeah.
okay? Guess what? But every day, one step closer to the goal.
That's fantastic. As you aware, and the audience is not, that Icon is one of the products that my company sells, and the passion is involved. You know, we talk about flow meters and level controls and things like that, but there are projects that are difficult.
Yep.
There are projects that we have to scratch our head, well, does it work on this application? We have to do a discovery process. And then, of course, the key thing behind everything is customer service. You know,
Yes, sir.
you got to sell it, and then you did something most interesting. We looked at a new product there, and we said, you know what? The customer wanted more training information, and you said, well, why don't we put the QR code right on the label of the display?
Yeah.
And that was by listening to customers, you evolved. And I think that's one of the key things we've learned with working with you over the years. The product is evolved
Yes, sir.
continuously.
Yes, sir.
And if you fall asleep, I guess you lose. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, without a doubt.
So the marketplaces that you sell the technology, just a quick wrap-up outline of who buys this, what kind of industries buy your kind of technology?
Well, it's excellent question. When it comes to processed chemicals, it's amazing how many different industries get involved with processed chemicals. So whether or not it's food, whether or not it's water treatment, your water has to be treated. So one of the things they did is they went from chlorine and chlorine gas to a chemical called sodium hypochlorite, which is concentrated bleach. We do these kind of applications, food, beverage, steel, just about any industry, even an industry that just uses water. You have to remember that when somebody brings water influent, so water coming in from the city, they have to have it treated to remove the ions and the calcium. So there's a treatment system there for the process that they're using. And then once the water is being used in the plant prior to discharge, they have to make sure that the pH is as close to 7 as they can. So they're using chemicals to either raise the pH or lower it before they discharge it back to sewer. So we're getting it. It's just, that's what makes this industry so interesting, is the number of places that you go, wow, I can't believe it. The other day, I was at a company that specializes in cryogenics.
Sure.
Okay. Pretty damn cool name.
Yeah.
I thought to some of these guys,
Pretty cool, pretty cold, yeah.
yeah, pretty damn cool. What a pickup line in the bar. What do you do, sir? I'm in a cryogenics.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's pretty cool. Anyways, I actually was able to dip my hand in the liquid nitrogen. And I thought whether or not, okay, if I dip it in, is it going to break off when it comes back out? Okay. I am telling you, it's so cool. They went in with this big, huge thing, pulled it out, and all of a sudden it started boiling, all this liquid. Those kind of things are cool. And I asked them prior to going back there, you have any dead bodies that you're storing back there? Okay. Okay, we want to make sure we're getting out of here. So anyways, it's a lot of fun.
That's the fun side of the job. You get to do things that other people don't get to do.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up the conversation there, one of the things I'd like to ask everybody is, if you were to go back in time and visit your former self before you started your business, what would you do differently this time now that you've had all this miles in between? Or that's it. It was perfect.
Hey, Brent, it wasn't perfect at the time.
Yeah.
Okay, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
If you could listen to the little voice, okay? When I was shoving horse manure, sheep manure, that was 1.5 feet thick for 90 cents an hour for a summer job, okay? You think I was? Hey, man, I'm skipping home? Not happening. But what I did learn is I've learned, and if I can go back, everything that I thought was a stop sign was truly a guideline. Everything, I'm full of battle scars and war wounds, okay? I don't want to take my shirt off, but trust me.
Yeah.
That's what's so important, is recognizing that this kind of stuff doesn't happen overnight. Anybody that tells you it's simple, it's not. But you do learn. And that's what makes us who we are. It's the experiences that I have more stories I could tell you.
Sure.
But at the time, they were shit shows.
Sure.
But, guess what? I learned from them. And it made me who I am today. So would I go back and change anything? No flipping way.
You've learned from that, and I've learned from in talking to other people and in talking to yourself. You have built a successful business with Icon. You really have some very interesting products for me and in the world to share, but your key feature was your passion. And the passion that you have makes you the person that you are, not the fact that you already have a dynamic personality and cool cars, by the way. Dynamic personality. But I think that is probably the driving force behind this whole thing. And so what I'd like to say, I'd like to thank you very much for coming down from Canada to see us today, to visit your U.S. office.
Yes.
And stop by here in Atlanta to say hello.
Yep.
And thank you for your time.
Been a pleasure, Brent. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, it's been fun.
Well then, I hope you have found this conversation of interest. If so, hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. I will see you on the next video.